Okay, returning now, we are talking about the demilitarized zone specifically, or known as a DMZ. This isn't really a small network, right? It's a segment, really, that contains resources that the company wants to make available to internet users, right? So a DMZ should sit between the internet and the internal network, and it's sometimes called even a perimeter network, right? So whenever I want to access something that I have to go outside for, like email or web servers or application servers, that's going through your DMZ. So internet users can use the DMZ without going through the firewall, but a better security strategy is placing an additional firewall, as I mentioned, in the network setup, and they need to pass through then really essentially two firewalls. Here's a picture of what that looks like. So a DMZ is that perimeter network that sometimes it's called, that protects the organization's internal local area network, or LAN, from untrusted traffic. So the end goal of a DMZ is to allow the organization to access untrusted networks like the internet, while ensuring its private network or LAN remains secure. So the purpose of a DMZ is really to give you an added layer of security to an organization's local area network, right? So this allows hosts in the DMZ to provide services to both the internal and external networks, while you have this intervening firewall that's controlling the traffic between the DMZ servers and the internal network. So you can see that in the picture here. The DMZ uses subnet 192.168.2.x, for example, the web server's IP address. So an identifier assigned to the services connected to a TCP IP network might be 192.168.2.2, right, is how that might work. So anyhow, just very interesting. And you can see the two firewalls there in between the DMZ. Okay, that was just a little bit about that. Now we want to turn to understanding the Cisco Adaptive Security Appliance Firewall. This is one of the most widely used firewalls is the Cisco Adaptive, right, Security Appliance ASA Firewall. Intrusion detection and prevention and more sophisticated application layer inspections happen here. So it's an added advanced modular feature, right, for sophisticated application layer inspections. So we can configure the ASA firewall. After logging on, there are a number of steps. You can get more on this in the book. It's fairly clear there. Note that the U.S. Legal system, I wanted to point out, has for example, an administrator can create a banner warning that anyone attempting to connect must be authorized before continuing. That's a good legal warning. Now, the U.S. legal system, I will note, has dropped charges against hackers because they entered sites with other words in them. For example, sometimes banners going through these routers or firewalls will have a welcome banner that says, welcome. Okay, the U.S. legal system isn't going to respect that. So you want to be careful on how you work your banners, right? The prompt is the same one that you saw when you logged into your Cisco router, right? In the symbol process. So to enter privilege mode also for the Cisco router, it's the same as the firewall process too. It's a couple of points I wanted to make on that slide. Now, again, more of the process on configuring your Cisco ASA firewall, all very clear and laid out in the book. So I ask you to go there and review that. Okay, so the patching systems I wanted to point out is only one part of protecting a system. It's very important. But you must also configure them securely. One of the best websites for finding configuration benchmarks, I will say to you, is the Center for Internet Security. It's a fabulous resource, and they have 15 or 20 benchmarks. You want to benchmark. Those are stealing the best ideas, stealing legally the best ideas, right? A benchmark really is an industry consensus that this is the best configuration practice, right? And it'll provide the CIS step-by-step guidance and explain the reasons for taking the steps when securing a Cisco router, right? So it's fabulous capability. It's a commercial tool worth mentioning, and so you'll want to stop by the CIS for benchmarks. Now, using the configuration risk and analysis tool for firewalls and routers, there's this thing called Red Seal, which can identify configuration vulnerabilities in routers or firewalls, right? So Red Seal can analyze the IPS as well as OS vulnerability scans of a network to produce a mapping, which is quite useful. It analyzes the configurations of all the devices on the network to identify what access is actually allowed. So Red Seal is unique in that it shows you a graphical representation of vulnerabilities that have been discovered, right? Very valuable. Now, understanding IDS and IPS, right? Fairly self-explanatory. So we monitor network devices through security administrators, right, to try and prevent an attack. So an IDS is going to look at traffic and compare it with known exploits. It's really very similar to virus scanning. In fact, an IDS is going to have sensors out in the system, and it's all going to pool into a collector, and that'll be tied to an analyzer based on, like virus software, based on signatures, right, to identify the traffic and malware that could be contained or issues. An intrusion prevention system is similar to an IDS, but as you know, I'm sure already, they will perform action. They take action. Intrusion prevention system takes action, where an IDS is just going to warn you. Then there are IDSs and IPSs are further divided into network-based and host-based. So a network-based IDS is going to monitor activity on the network, and it's going to sniff around for traffic and give you alerts. A host-based IDS or IPS, this is used to protect the critical network server or a database server, right? Something that's hosting. And so software is installed on the server attempting to protect that particular asset, all right? IDSs are categorized by how they react when they detect suspicious behavior. So there's passive and active IDSs. A passive system doesn't take any preventive action, where an active system is going to log events and send alerts, and can also interpret or interoperate with the routers and firewalls. Okay, so vendors have started focusing on IPSs in recent history, and a true network IPS is going to be installed in line. It has to be in line to take action, right? So it's got to be in line. If it's out of line, offline, or off network, it's only going to be able to analyze the traffic, right? So traffic has to pass through this IPS before going in and out of the network. And it's really a more capable approach to stopping this malicious traffic. So a host-based IPS operates at the OS or the kernel level, and it intercepts the traffic not allowed by host policy. There's anomaly-based IDS. It uses a baseline. It figures out a baseline and what's normal activity. And then if there's an anomaly to normal activity, bam, it's going to send you an alert. Most IDS, IPS solutions today have anomaly detection capabilities already built in. Now, Here's a single slide on this intrusion detection system, and what I mean by to be signature-based, anomaly-based, and heuristic-based. So you want to study this, and these are the questions as a security tester that you want to go into a company, and when they say we have an IDS, you'd ask them, do you have signature-based, or are you doing anomaly-based, heuristic-based, or a mixture of all of them? Web filtering is another capability that it stops users from viewing certain URLs or websites by preventing their browsers from loading pages from these sites. So web filters are made in different ways to deliver various solutions, basically. So web filter is basically that software program governing the data packets which are sent and received by your computer. Now it's going to filter compromising content from the websites that have been forbidden by the manager, right? We know some sites have malware on them or are likely to share malware, and we can forbid those. So web filtering is used to detect a user's attempts to access malicious sites. It's going to block them, right? In order to block the malicious code, right, before it gets to the user's workstation or connects to an attacker's command and control system outside the network. Mass compromises are used to initiate drive-by download. So website visitors download this malicious code even without their knowledge, right? Nobody's trying to do it. One of the tools we have to help us is the SOC, or the Security Operations Center. Now, a SOC is a centralized function within any organization, and it's going to help people, processes, and technology to continuously monitor and improve an organization's posture. It's looking to prevent, detect, analyze, and respond to cyber incidents, just like the NIST would want us to. Right? NIST is all about ID, detect, prevent, detect, and take action and remediate. So an IOC, or an indicator of compromise, is often described with the forensics folks, right? It's a world of evidence, right, in a computer that indicates that the security of the network has been attacked. A SIM is very useful. This SIM software works, it collects logs and event data generated by the organization's applications and other security devices and host systems, and it brings them together. It's centralized logging is what you want, and logging aggregation. You want it to combine like items so that it can sense a pattern, right? Which also ties to a SOAR, right? Although security information event management has grown, there's security orchestration and automation and response. That's the SOAR piece. And these have capabilities that really complement each other. So you want a SOAR, a SIM SOAR. A good example of that is Splunk Phantom is a SIM SOAR capability. Now, honeypots are also an important part of a security tester's solution. A honeypot is a computer or a set of computers, which is a honey net, intended to mimic. It makes it look like your network, so cyber attackers want to go there. And really, it's used to detect attacks or to deflect them. It's meant to study an attacker's approach so that we can then take action to fill those gaps. Do honeypots really work? I'm not sure. I think a lot of hackers know they're there, but it's worth trying. So Cyber Honeypot is going to act in a similar way. Here's more on honeypots just to wrap it up. Okay, that's it. Chapter 13. I hope you've enjoyed it. I have too. I'll see you online.